Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Glad you're here. If you were not here at the 8 a.m. session, my name is Steve McLeod, and I'm honored to serve as president of SACRAO for 2020-21. At last count, we have had 846 registrants. That is a record, and it will probably be a record that lasts forever. But we're amazed. When we were planning this, we thought we would be happy if we had 250. So you are amazing us, and thank you. We're glad you're here and hope that you're having a good conference so far. I've heard good things about the sessions we've had so far. We have had some technical difficulties, but we worked with those successfully. I want to thank everyone who is working diligently behind the scenes to help put on this virtual conference, specifically people like Melissa Hyatt, Angela Brocklesby, John Reese, and of course, Kim Taylor. Appreciate all the work you're doing. Thank you very much. We're holding this town hall meeting in order to present the items that will be on the agenda tomorrow for the business meeting at noon. We're going to have our discussion for this session using the Q&A feature. At the previous discussion, some were using chat and others were using the Q&A, and it's just easier for us to be able to see all the questions in one place. So please use the Q&A if you have any discussion during this session. We're going to start out with a report from our treasurer, Jonathan Reese, on the proposed budget and financial information. John?
All right, thanks, Steve. Hopefully you can see my screen now. I'm going to try to move through this pretty quickly. There's a lot of information, but this town hall is designed for Q&A as well, so I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have on anything that you see on the screen. One of the mentionables here, I'm jumping ahead a slide and I'm going to go backwards. What I'm going to be covering is the 2020 budget and the actual expenses for this past year and income this past year, and then the proposed budget for the current year, which we've already sent underway. So if you want to see a complete synopsis of that budget, it is on our website under the resources. You need to be logged into the website to be able to see it. But if you want to see the complete document, you can see it there. I'm going to break this document up into smaller pieces for the purposes of this Zoom session. So first thing I wanted to cover was these are our current assets. Wells Fargo checking account. $17,588.96. Our savings account, $192,213.83. We have two sub accounts within our under our umbrella, and that is we did this back in 2019, started converting to this process primarily because of its interactions with member clicks, our new website setup. So we have to have all of our accounts under the same name to be able to collect credit card transactions under that. So we have a 2022 LAC account. This actually was the LAC account for this year. This is the one that Chris Riggins is using for Arkansas. Because we went virtual this year, we moved everything forward. So this money was already earmarked for the 2021 conference. Now we're moving that to 2022 now. And therefore also moving what is listed here as a 2023 and it used to be the 2022, kind of confusing, I know, but account going forward. And so we seed $5,000 to the LAC every year. So this is sort of a starting balance for the local arrangements committee to start out with their publicity and marketing. And then the actual conference revenue, the registration fees, fill in the gaps for all the other expenses. So in essence, our total assets for the association is $220,348.27. So the first thing I want to talk about is the actual budget that was approved last year and the expenses that were incurred this year. One thing to remember is that our membership is based off of a July 1 to June 30th timeline. So, but our fiscal year is based on a calendar year. So in other words, January 1 or December 31st. So the 2020 budget was approved last year, and then I'm comparing it to what we actually spent this year, and also income this year. And first thing we're going to focus on is the income. So dues, we budgeted $63,500. We actually brought in $64,750, and I am not showing my screen, am I? Let's see. Am I? You guys?
I'm seeing it.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Seeing your screen, yes.
I've
Yes.
got multiple things on my screen. I want to make sure I was still displaying. So the interest savings account, $11.50 budgeted. We ended up with $14.20. Every penny counts. And the LAC return of the advance, again, seed money that we provide to the LAC each year. So the LAC for 2020 returned all $5,000 that we had originally budgeted for that. And so the reimbursement to SACRAO for paid expenses, this is, we didn't budget anything for that this past year, but I want to offer a major kudo to Hope Reynolds and the LAC chair and the LAC crew from last year. They did a wonderful job of managing the conference and was able to bring back to SACRAO $67,698.05. And that's on top of the $5,000 that they originally gave. Which was the seed money back. So that is a super kudo. We have, this goes towards the replenishing our SACRAO reserves, which we depleted in 2019. So this is a major step forward. So, and I think the closest we ever came to that amount returned back to SACRAO, at least in the last 5 years, was in 2017, and 25,000 was returned. So that's a pretty significant amount there. So the next thing is the administrative side of the budget. Archiving, we budgeted 50. They ended up being 50. That was expected. I don't anticipate that changing anytime in the near future. Our bank service, we budgeted for 50. That ended up being 524.54. That's primarily based on our credit card fees. Went up higher than I originally projected last year, and that's because more and more institutions are paying by credit card now, and less. We still have quite a number that we receive checks for, but most of that's credit cards, and that's a service fee for that credit card. Actually, I'm skipping ahead. The credit card fees, Payscape, we budgeted 900. That was 1506.63. So in essence, got to do a better job of budgeting for that next year. Dropbox, $419.50. We budgeted for. I'm still investigating this one. We did not pay any money to Dropbox this past year, and we're investigating whether that was on purpose, whether our needs at the Dropbox level is high enough to go above their free account. So we're still investigating that one, but we did not, for the calendar year 2020, we did not spend any money on Dropbox. Now that may change going forward in the future. Insurance, pretty straightforward. This is our liability insurance as an association. We budgeted $1285. We ended up spending $1320. Just basic increases within the cost of doing business with insurance. So nothing out of the ordinary there. Miscellaneous administration, normally we budgeted 50, but we rarely use that account or that particular amount. It usually just has floating money in it. This year we did $912.99. That's primarily we reimbursed some corporate sponsors. Corporate sponsors, when they sponsor the annual meeting each year, we include into that a membership, so they get they're able to become corporate partner members of SACRAO, And these corporate partners actually paid for membership, and so we just refunded them. Really didn't have a place to put that, so I just stuck it into miscellaneous administration. But that's usually not the line item that we spend out of there. Postage and handling, printing and supplies. We budgeted zero. We spent zero. As we move more and more, as this conference is attesting to that, as we move to more and more virtual, this is we'll see less and less of the physical printing and postage needs. Tax prep, audit, legal fees. We were audited this year. We budgeted $9,900 for that. We actually spent $8,690. Not to toot my own horn here a little bit, but I was able to prepare a little bit for the audit, and so our billable hours was a little bit lower this time around. So the expense went down a little bit. Teleconferencing, we budgeted $200. We didn't spend any on that. I imagine that is a separate teleconferencing, not video, but teleconferencing by phone option that we've had in the organization for a long time. I am looking to retire that because most institutions now we have shareable Zoom sessions and WebEx sessions, et cetera. So I'm not imagining that the teleconferencing will continue on past this year. Web development, again, that's something that's probably going to fall off to the wayside as well. We budgeted $4,000 for web support and maintenance. We actually ended up paying $1,495. And that's primarily, we really benefited here. A huge kudo goes out to SACRAO. They ended up picking up the tab for our MemberClicks subscription. And the only thing that we're paying for right now are the custom items within MemberClicks, like the voting and I'm drawing a blank right now. There's some of the other options as well, but we have some customized options. We pay for those, but SACRAO picks up the bill for the remainder amount. So huge shout out to SACRAO for that. The annual meeting, obviously we didn't spend very much money this year, and so we budgeted $5,000 to give to the 2022 LAC. But again, as we moved everything forward, we ended up not having to do that because we had already done that. And then same thing for the 2023, it also moved forward. So we did not spend any money there for the LAC. That money was allocated in last year's budget. So the virtual meeting allowed us to move that forward. ASCAP, which is our music licensing, and that is, we budget 131, that price. We paid twice in the same year. So last January, I paid for the membership and ASCAP, and then in December, I paid again for the upcoming year in anticipation of the treasurer transition that's coming up. I didn't want anything to get lost in the wayside. So we paid twice in the same year. But budgetarily, it only went up $4 or $5. I can't remember now, but in terms of the difference between what we budgeted and what we actually paid there. So program planning meeting, we budgeted about $15,000 for that. That's the summer planning meeting for the annual meeting that we're in right now. Obviously, we did not go to Arkansas. We will do that next year. But so we did not spend any money on that. So that ended up being a zero. For speakers, obviously, again, conference online, no money. Actually, let me back that up. In 2020, we did have a program planning committee meeting, and we did have speakers. But again, Hope's LAC budget was able to cover most of those expenses. So again, major kudos on Hope and her LAC team. The committees, audit committee, we'll speak to that a little bit later on, but the zero expenses there, we didn't budget anything there. The audit committee typically in the past has met, has shared documents with the treasurer back and forth, questions and answers back and forth, and met virtually, and then again at the physical location of the conference. So there was really no expenses to budget for there. And of course, we didn't spend anything there either. $2,500 was budgeted for the evaluations, and we didn't spend anything on evaluations this past year. MemberClicks has an evaluation tool built into it. It's one of the custom things that we utilize. And then So with the evaluations, I imagine that may possibly move away in the near future as well. We used to, I'm drawing a blank right here on the screen for you, but what our current vendor is that we've used evaluation before, MemberClicks, but we budgeted for that. We didn't end up spending any money on that. Executive budget was $500. We didn't spend anything from the executive committee. Membership, again, $250 budgeted. We didn't spend any money there. Nominations and elections, again, no money there. Everything was done virtually. The distinct populations and programs, we budgeted 4,000. It ended up being 4507.96. And that's basically 3 attendee scholarships this past year to the annual meeting. Those scholarships cover travel, hotel, and registration. And so I think in the future, we probably need to look to budget a little bit more than that if we continue that program. But the reason why is because when we set this budget, we don't know who's actually being awarded this scholarship. So they may be traveling. We don't know what the distances they're traveling. We don't know how what the expenses are until they come in. So anyway, just something to watch going forward in the future. Public relations, ACRAO representative, $500 budgeted. We didn't spend any money on that. Executive committee, actually, again, Hope's going to be a reoccurring theme here, but kudos to Hope and her LAC team for covering some of all those expenses. So executive committee travel, $4,400. We had spent 0 of that. SACRAO at SACRAO, we had booked, we had basically budgeted, and I'm gonna take a hit on this one. We budgeted low, $3,600 on the SACRAO conference, but we had 3 attendees that were approved to go. We had bought airfare, and so that's what that $4,037 or $4,037.16 is the airfare to SACRAO. We have credits on hand for those. So that we can utilize those in the future with those individuals. That was the only expense. We were able to cancel the hotel and the registrations and all that, and it went. I think the conference was canceled last year. It's going to be virtual this year. And so the honorary comp registrations, we budgeted 2,000. Again, 0. LAC was able to cover some of that. Past president's luncheon, $500. We ended up spending $470.58. President's reception, $1,500, spent $0 there. Again, LAC picked that tab up. And plaque certificates and gifts, a little over what we budgeted, $1,200, and then we spent $1,259.46. SACRAO at ACRAO reception, we budgeted 1,000. We ended up not having a physical location for the ACRAO reception. The state president's luncheon, $1,400. We ended up not spending that. Again, LAC was able to cover some of that expense. The publications, we've got the journal and the newsletter. The total cost of the journal and newsletter is $420. It's basically the cost for the vendor. If you saw the pre-conference newsletter, that along with the SACRAO journal are all handled by Issue, the company who makes that, helps us publish that online. It's $420 for the year. I split that $210 and $210 between the 2 line items. The journal has a little more money into it. We budgeted $350. We actually spent $550.63. Again, we factored in the journal board luncheon from last year's annual meeting into that mix. So that's why there's a difference there. Our total income for the year, $68,500, or we budgeted for $68,511.50. We actually brought in $137,632.25. Again, big part of that's Hope and the LAC team from last year. The total expenses, we budgeted for $62,310.50. We actually only spent $25,802.95. So again, the pandemic, while it has been atrocious and we have all worked very hard and we've had a lot of unsurmountable challenges, financially, it served SACRAO well this year in terms of saving money and being able to put that money towards our reserves. And I'll speak to that a little bit later too. So our proposed budget for this next year, I'm proposing a little less than what we had this year, just a modest drop in the budget, $54,000. And it was 68,000. I think this 63,000 last year budgeted. But the difference being that I'm a little cautious this time because we had a lot of members that were able to contribute this year, and I'm not sure we want to plan for a big number this upcoming year based on the pandemic. There's going to be a lot of physical challenges amongst all the campuses and within the organization, so I want to budget a little bit more modestly there. So interest savings, I'm anticipating about $13 in interest from savings account. LAC return of advance, I'm expecting that we'll be able to return that back from our Arkansas LAC. And again, I'm budgeting $0 back to SACRAO over that $5,000, but certainly we would welcome any additional funds that the Arkansas crew are able to return, but we don't want to budget for that. Administration archiving, and again, don't expect any changes there. The $50 for archiving bank service, I anticipated a little bit more in terms of credit card usage as well. So we've got bank service at $550, credit card usage at $1525. Dropbox, I'm assuming we will have to pick that back up again. So I want to be comfortable and at least have the $210 there to cover that expense. But again, that's still to be determined. Insurance, I added a little bit more to insurance, $1360, with looking at the last couple years of increases, trying to figure out an average that we need to budget for. The miscellaneous administration, again, I put $50 there, but I'm not entirely sure we're going to use all of that or we're going to use it at all. That's kind of a slush fund, I would say, for any kind of odd expenses. Postage and shipping, printing and supplies, again, I don't anticipate any expenses there. Tax prep audit, I did increase the amount for what we're going to be budgeting for the audit this next year, but that hopefully that will cover that. Again, web support and maintenance, $1,500, just trying to account for some inflation on that with member clicks, again, handling our custom services. Annual meeting, I put in this year, this is our annual meeting for 2021. So obviously, whatever costs we're incurring in this virtual environment would be what we have. So I've set aside $2,000 to cover some unexpected expenses for this virtual meeting. But again, we may not need to come to that. We've been very supportive. We've got a lot of good support from the corporate partners. So this might actually be something that does not get used this year. So, but again, it's there if we need it. The advanced to LAC 2022 and 2023, both of those already been done, so I don't need to budget for that. ASCAP licensing, again, as I mentioned earlier, we paid twice in 2020, so we already paid for this year. We paid them December for the entire year of 2021. So so that would have no additional budget for this particular year. Planning meeting, this is a huge assumption that we may be able to return. We may be able to return to our normal summer planning meeting that we've had in the past. Kind of doubtful, but anyway, it is a budget, and if it doesn't get spent, it's money we can hang on to. So, but that's assuming a full return to a summer planning meeting, which may not be the case. Speakers, as far as I know, we did not have any speaker expenses because, again, this past February, or sorry, last February, we didn't have any speakers payments, and since I'm not aware of any that we are paying at this annual meeting virtually, so that is set for $0 for this year. The audit committee, again, evaluations, membership, nomination, elections, distinct population. Actually, I'm gonna hold that one separate. Those I don't anticipate having any expenses this year. If any meetings do occur, they're probably going to be virtual. So there's no expenses there. There is money for executive, although I think it falls kind of under the same umbrella as the other committees. It probably will not have any expenses this year either. Distinct populations and programs, again, I mentioned last time around, it was the 3 scholarships last year to the February 2020 annual meeting. We are online, virtual, and free. So there was no need for a scholarship this particular year. So there will be zero money there earmarked for distinct population and programs. The SACRAO representative, Tiffany, was able to speak with us this morning. I don't think there will be any expenses there for this year. Executive committee travel, I did put that at $4,400. But again, travel might still be very limited. I know many institutions are limiting travel domestically and internationally, so that may not be spent, but it is budgeted. SACRAO at SACRAO, it's a virtual conference this year, and as I understand it, it's not going to be a registration fee, so I do not anticipate any expenses with that. Honorary comp registrations, President's Luncheon, President's Reception, all of that is virtual this year, so there should be no expenses in 2021. Plaques, certificates, and gifts, we will have those. We will be mentioning those at our business meeting tomorrow. There's a little extra money there for that because we're going to have to mail those plaques as opposed to providing them at this virtual meeting. So there's a little extra money there for that. So that's $1,400. SACRAO at SACRAO reception, again, SACRAO is going to be virtual this year, so there's no physical reception needed. State President's Luncheon, again, we're virtual, so no expense there. No expense expected there, let's put it that way. The journal and newsletter, again, it's $420 as far as I know. There's no upcoming increase there, so split between the two that you'll see that's pretty straightforward. So total income for the 2021 budget, we're anticipating bringing in $59,013. We're expecting to spend $38,865. So that's going to result in a little overage if we stay with those figures. But again, that's going to help. Anything that we can retain will go towards building up our reserves as an association. So President Steve McLeod asked me a question about, well, what about a 2-year sustainability? If we have to take a 2-year hit for whatever reason, I don't want to forecast that. I don't want to say that that's ever going to happen, but it's good to have that in our reserves. And so I just did a real high level. This is not meant to be a very in-depth look at by any means, but I did want to at least try to provide some sort of answer, and I'm providing that answer to you here in the town hall meeting as well. But normally our contract losses would be in the neighborhood of $125,000 to $175,000 for the year. If we would have to cancel a contract, archiving, Dropbox, insurance, tax prep, web maintenance, all that's pretty straightforward. And then, of course, any unknown expenses might factor into that as well. But liability for 1 year is roughly $139,000, $188,000. So I am kind of being very, I want to go for the max. So I'm anticipating for us to be sustainable going in the future, we need to have at least $376,000 squirreled away, and we don't have that right now. And hopefully we will not run into that a situation where we would need that before we have a time to accumulate it. So we are a nonprofit association, so we are not looking to make a profit, but we do want to make sure that our association, our resources, our service to each SACRAO member is sustainable, so that we can continue on in the future. This is an independent question. It is not something that's coming up for voting today or tomorrow. And it's just simply a question that I wanted to answer and provide to the membership. So let's see. And now I will open up for questions.
We do have one. It's from Cheryl Gray. Great news on the increase on membership dues. Was that due to more institutions joining SACRAO, or because the new due structure has been successful?
Well, it's anecdotal. I don't have any data to support it, but we did have a huge increase in our membership this past year. So I'm assuming that more institutions, after hearing about the virtual, the free virtual conference this year, wanted to provide this as a professional development opportunity for their teams on their respective campuses in an environment where travel is not available, and large expenses are not available. So a membership to SACRAO and then having as many members as they want underneath that membership at the same price, I think was certainly something that a lot of institutions look to. So anecdotally, I can say, I'd like to say that looking at the number of schools that renewed that haven't renewed in a long time, I'm imagining it has to do with this virtual conference. And so certainly a lot of that's depicted in the conference attendance numbers as well. In any event, that's what I think. So I can't see the chat, so.
Yeah, there's no other questions in it or in the questions and answers. That was it.
Okay, I want to add that this is the time to ask questions. At the business meeting tomorrow, there won't be an opportunity for questions. I'll roll through this exact same scenario really quickly. I probably will leave out some of the commentary that I added today during the town meeting or town hall. And so if you have questions, now is the time to ask. I'm looking at Melissa on my screen and she doesn't have any questions for me. So I just want to say that I really appreciate the association's faith in me over the last couple of years as treasurer. I'm looking forward to passing the baton, and I have certainly enjoyed this role. I have learned a lot about this association, and so it's exciting, and I've become even more invested in this because of the great team that I work with, the executive committee and all the other program committees and the other individuals. So anyway, it's been a great ride.
Got another one. Do you foresee changes to the membership dues for next year?
I do not. Again, I'm not. I don't want to dictate what's going to be on the agenda for next year. But my recommendation would be we might discuss that, but I don't know that we won't want to implement it until the pandemic settles down a little bit. There's a few variables there we can't account for, and I think that's something that we should definitely discuss. But I don't know that we won't want to implement. But that's a John opinion. Take it or leave it.
That was from Nanette. Steve, did you want to say something about that?
First, John, you can probably unshare your screen so people can see us while we talk.
Sure.
Oh.
Thank you. I concur with John. I don't anticipate any fee increase. I think we're happy to where things are, and so I don't see any changes there either. I see the next question is from Hope Walton. It is an interesting question. Given the fact that the pandemic is far worse this year, does SACRAO really think that we will have a 2022 conference? The best answer I can give to that is yes. In hope, in faith, yes, we are proceeding as if we can, in fact, safely meet in Little Rock a year from now. Can we actually predict the future and know what's going to happen? No, we can't do that. But that's the best answer that I can give as president is yes, we are fully planning 100% to be in Little Rock because I miss seeing all of you people. I really, really miss seeing you guys. This is fine. This is okay. I'm glad you're all here, but this is not as I want to be able to visit with you. I want to see you. I even want to hug some of you anyway. So anyway, yes, we do anticipate that. And John, Amy Barber says, I think you did a great job on explaining our financial situation and the budget. So, and I think so too, John, you did very well. And I'm giving you applause. Anyone else can do the same. So financially, we're doing very well. I've inserted myself here to talk about the 2020 audit. In the last year, I couldn't begin to tell you how many mistakes I've made as president of SACRAO. What I'm about to tell you is the most public of my mistakes. John's already given us numbers where it shows we've cleared over $100,000 this year, so we're doing well financially. But I neglected to appoint an audit committee. We're supposed to have an audit committee do an external audit and look at everything and give us a report, and then we would receive that report at the business meeting. I discovered my error too late to appoint a committee and give them a legitimate amount of time to produce a real audit. So I took this to the executive committee and made a suggestion, told them this was totally my fault. And what I suggested is that after the business meeting tomorrow, we will have a new president of SACRAO, and that president should, as quickly as is reasonably possible, appoint a new audit committee. And that audit committee will be charged with 2 audits. First, they would do the audit for this year, and we would ask that they complete that audit by May 30th. And they would give us that audit report. We would provide it to the membership, and then the membership can have access to it and evaluate it. Then they would do a second audit a year from now that would be presented at the Little Rock conference as they normally would do. So whoever gets tapped for the audit committee understands they are committing to 2 audits. And I made that suggestion to the executive committee. They accepted it as a reasonable solution to this problem. I did ask the committee if this was an impeachable offense. No one seemed to think that it was. But if anyone wants to bring that up in the discussion, I suppose you can run me out 24 hours early. I don't know. Anyway, that's the problem. It's my fault. I'm sorry about it. And we have a reasonable plan to cover for that mistake. So I wanted to get that out to you. I don't know if there's any Q&A. I see several comments in the chat, but I haven't been able to, oh, someone's commenting. Yes, there is a SACRAO audit committee in addition to the external audit. Now, John, are you saying we did do the external audit?
Yes, Steve, we did the external audit. That was done this past summer, late spring, early summer. So that has been done, but there is also a review that happens internally with the SACRAO audit committee.
Thank you for that clarification. So we did have the external audit because that was not relying on me. I'm assuming John took charge of that, but we didn't do the internal review, and we will do that and have it available to you. If you have any questions, comments about that, you can send that in the Q&A. I don't see anything popping up. If it does, we can come back to it later. Otherwise, we will move on to Past President CG to talk to us anything she feels appropriate about the future meeting sites and or Constitution and bylaws. Anything you want to say there? Do you want to answer the question, are we going to be in Little Rock next year?
I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know if I can do that. But I will give an update regarding the site selection committee and then the constitution and bylaws. So hi, everybody. I do wish I could see you in person. So the great thing about Little Rock is that the hotel and the convention center was extremely gracious and worked with us and allowed us to shift it to 2022. So with the hope that an in-person conference is allowable in 2022, that's where we're going to be, is Little Rock. There were 2 other states that the site selection committee was working with, Kentucky SACRAO and Carolina SACRAO. And those discussions will continue, of course, with the understanding that their proposals will need to shift a year out due to the original proposal due to the pandemic. And of course, any state is welcome to submit a bid for a year. It would need to come from your state association just to show that there's state support. So that's where we are on site selection. The next thing that I wanted to go to is the Constitution and bylaws. If you recall, if you were in Alexandria, Virginia last year, the vote to allow online voting of changes to the Constitution and bylaws was unanimously passed. And that was pretty timely given our current situation. Now we can vote online for stuff. So rather than having to wait for the annual business meeting, this change will enable us to be more adept in getting the word out about important issues to the membership and make changes which are important to the operation of the association. So any changes to the Constitution and bylaws would be up for a vote online. So I'm going to, I guess, preview a couple of things that will possibly be coming up for consideration. This is not a voting situation now. We're just kind of bringing those out so the membership knows about it. So first, these are 2 additions to the executive committee that I'm going to be telling you about. First, due to the high demands that are placed on a local arrangements committee and understanding the critical relationships that we have with corporate partners, it was suggested that a corporate partner liaison be added to the executive committee. So this would be a more dedicated role that would interact with our corporate partners and ensure that there is the greatest benefit to our members and the corporate partners that we work with. Second, one of the most demanding jobs on the executive committee is that of the treasurer. And I think John has just given you a little glimpse of all of the detail things that he has to work with. So just as there is a presidential triad that works together and learns from each other, we are suggesting a treasurer dyad. So this would mean adding a treasurer-elect to the executive committee. So this structure would hopefully counteract some of the steep learning curves and just gathering of just transferring the authority from one person to another to be able to get access to things and stuff is also time consuming. So it would alleviate some of that associated with positions. And some state organizations have this model already, and it seems to work pretty well. So those are the 2 main things that were really discussed last year. And then they kind of got on hold during the pandemic, but I think it's time to revisit those. And so the incoming executive committee would formalize what these 2 positions would look like, and then they would put it up for a virtual vote. So that's really the end of my updates on those 2 things, and I'll open it up for any questions that anybody has or thoughts.
I don't see any questions. Paige did mention that SACRAO did that this year, where the treasurer, so, but I don't see anything else.
Okay, then moving along, Patrick Frazier is here. Patrick, yeah, there you are, from our Nominations and Elections Committee. So Patrick, would you unmute yourself and give your presentation?
I sure will. I'd like to begin by thanking this year's nomination.
You're back on mute somehow. You're back on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There. So I want to start by thanking this year's Nominations and Elections Committee. our chair-elect, Brenda Schumann, and our 3 members, Ryan Garrity, Lou Jimenez, and Melissa Johnson. And myself was the chair this year, rolling off after my second year on the committee. We did go through some growing pains this year as our committee got adjusted to member clicks as part of the nominations process. So we were a little late in getting everything out, and with other complications, we were a little bit late in getting nominations back, but we had a great slate of candidates to choose from. In total, we had 53 nominations for the different positions. And I'm going to go through the selections for this year's slate of officers, as well as the slate for the ballot for nominations and elections for the upcoming year. Beginning with President-elect, the NNE selected John Reese from University of North Carolina at Charlotte. For Program Vice President for Professional and Personal Development, Cynthia Terry from University of Alabama at Birmingham. Program Vice President for Records and Academic Services, Evan Wright from Trident Technical College. Vice President for Communication and Recognition, Diana Hull, University of Florida. And Treasurer, Jessica Brock, Arkansas Tech University. And then the next individuals that I'll announce are the individuals that are going to be on the ballot for Nominations and Elections Committee. This will be a vote a ballot that is open to the members to vote on. The 4 individuals that receive the highest vote will make up next year's Nominations and Elections Committee. The individual that receives the most votes will be the chair-elect and will serve a 2-year term on the Nominations and Elections Committee. These 8 individuals: Angela Broxby from North Carolina State University, Cindy Peterson from Piedmont College, Matt Cash from USC Beaufort, Megan Mitchell from Austin Peay State University, Shannon Tipton from Eastern Kentucky University, Sanja Cantrell Johnson from Marshall University, Taylor King from Columbus State University, and Whitney Piskey from Radford University. And that, Steve, is our slate of officers, as well as the slate for the Nominations and Elections ballot.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I appreciate the work of your committee. I think you've got some very fine people coming in to the SACRAO Executive Committee and up for the NNE as well. So thank you very much for your work there. I know it's not been an easy ride this year, but thank you. Now we're going to have open forum. So anybody has questions, comments, now is the time to make them. If you have any, the only way I will see you is if you put something in the Q&A or the chat. I'm pausing and not seeing anything. If you think of something, I suppose you can still do that and we'll try to address it. But since no one has anything, we will move to Megan Mitchell from Austin Peay. Megan, you're up.
All right, well, I get to do the fun work. Everybody else had the hard job. I just get to give away door prizes. So that's a lot of fun. So I'm going to share my screen. This is a really big wheel of names. And so if you would just private message me your email address, if your name is the one chosen. I'm going to shuffle them for just a second. I'm going to be giving away 6 $25 Amazon gift cards sponsored by IEE. And then I'll be doing 2 $25 gift cards from Reward Genius, and those are sponsored by Parchment. So up first is those 6 Amazon gift cards from IEE. And that looks like Lisa McCollum, gets one of those. Casey Minix. Peniel Brown. Carol Metters. Ashley Darr. And our last Amazon gift card from IEE goes to Jamie Patterson. So congratulations to those. The next two I will draw are going to be for the Reward Genius gift cards from Parchment. That's going to go to Tiffany Bain. And Kaylee Moats. So congratulations to all of our winners. If you will, like I said, if you're here, just private message me. If not, we will match that against registration and we will be sure to email you those gift cards. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you, Megan. And congratulations to all those winners. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. John, I appreciate your presentation. Hers was more fun. Okay. That brings this town hall meeting to a close. I want to remind you the next big thing happening is at 4:30, our networking fun hour, which is going to be trying to be a substitute to all the face-to-face interaction we have. And I hope I can see you there. In between there, we will have 3 vendor concurrent vendor sessions, corporate partners sessions at 1:15, 2 o'clock, and 3:30 with a corporate partner break at 2:45. Please take advantage of those opportunities. Tomorrow, we're back at 8:30 with member sessions and another corporate partner break at 9:15. At 10, we'll have our plenary session on diversity in higher education. At 11, the 2 big forums for admissions and registrars. And then we're back at noon tomorrow for the business meeting, new officers transition, and close of the conference. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your afternoon. And I hope to see you at 4:30 this afternoon for some fun. Thank you. Bye-bye.